What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. I'm your host, Warren Thompson, and Marvel Studios released so much at San Diego Comic-Con. We had a lot of announcements for new movies, including 2 new Avengers movies, a new Captain America, the Thunderbolts, a Daredevil series that is going to be 18 episodes long, but out of all of that, we did not get any sort of announcement for the X-Men. And this was pretty disappointing for a lot of fans. However, we do have Disney's D23 day coming up in a couple of months, so there is always hope that they're saving that big reveal for D23. However, today we might have a pretty good idea of when the Mutants/X-Men might actually be hitting the MCU. And we also might have an idea of one of the actors that could be playing an X-Men. This actor has spoken up openly and publicly about meeting with Marvel Studios and talking about playing a character for the X-Men. However, there could be some good news and bad news that comes with that, as well as when the X-Men are going to actually hit the MCU. But I will break down everything that you need to know in this video. Now, right away, let's talk about a report that has come out recently stating that Marvel Studios cannot even do the X-Men in the MCU until 2025, which sounds crazy. Now, technically they can, however, there's a twist. They would have to use some of the old actors and characters from the Fox X-Men franchise, which obviously they don't really want to do unless it's in some type of a multiverse manner. And I know this may freak some people out, but don't worry, everything is okay. I'll explain why, but first let's talk about this report. According to Devin Faraki, former editor-in-chief of Birth, Movies, Death, and current co-host of Marvel Vision, 20th Century Fox's contractual obligations to actors in the X-Men franchise have carried over to Disney/Marvel and are in effect until 2025. This means Marvel cannot recast, announce, or enter production on a film that includes roles held by some, if not all, of the most recent principal actors in the Fox X-Men franchise. Deadpool 3 and Xavier in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness are exempt because they are the original actors playing the roles. Now, after this report came out, the Illuminati came out and they said that they did some digging and they discovered that actors are not the only ones that have a standing contract tying them to the X-Men. According to their sources, Marvel is holding off on the X-Men because the producers of Fox's X-Men films are still attached via contract as well. And now it's starting to make sense that Disney and Marvel would not want to do the X-Men soon because they want to recast all of these characters, but they also don't want any of Fox's people involved. So basically, it's not the concern of having old actors come back and play their roles of the X-Men, it's really getting away from Fox and getting away from the people who made the Fox X-Men movies, which if you have seen most of the recent Fox X-Men movies, you definitely understand. Also, not to mention, these people at Fox have no connection to the MCU whatsoever. They have had no involvement in creating anything in the MCU, so they're really not in the know and they're really kind of just not a part of the family, unfortunately. Now, this might seem like some pretty bad news. However, I don't think this has stopped Marvel Studios from trying to cast who they actually want. Because if this is true, this just means that they can't make a movie until 2025. It doesn't mean that they can't start preparing for the movie to happen in 2025. And also keep in mind, yes, we are hearing about this, but nobody ever truly knows 100% what is really happening contractually behind the scenes with some studios. Like, to this day, we still don't know what the actual contract between Sony and Disney/Marvel is with Spider-Man. We have an idea, but we don't fully know. And it has been revealed recently that Taron Egerton has actually met with Marvel Studios about playing an X-Men. Now, fans have been fan casting him to play the new Wolverine for years now. Now, he's a phenomenal actor. He's got a lot of range from Kingsman to Eddie the Eagle to when he played Elton John. Amazing actor, and I actually do think that he would be a very good Wolverine. However, he actually met with Marvel Studios about playing Cyclops, and he actually revealed this himself. Take a look at this clip.
Cyclops, though? Is that true?
I don't mind saying that was a real thing. There was a real conversation, and to be honest, I've never said this actually. To be honest, the reason that conversation never went any further is because I didn't want to play a character for a potential of a series of movies where you don't see my eyes. For me, I felt instinctively, creatively that like the eyes are the windows to the soul. I don't know how I would find that challenging, and I just didn't find it an intriguing prospect. So it's not that they ever offered it to me, but there was a conversation, a real conversation that never went any further.
Wow.
I respect
So, Taron Egerton had talks with Marvel Studios about playing Cyclops. Now, right away, I just want to say that just because he kind of turned down the role of Cyclops does not mean that he may not play an X-Men and still could even possibly play Wolverine. And he does say more about meeting with Marvel Studios, and what's really interesting is that he says he met with Marvel Studios 4 years ago, which is actually a really good sign, because if Marvel Studios can't make movies about the X-Men or mutants until 2025, then why would they be meeting with actors in 2018? Perhaps they're just preparing way in advance, but here's what Taron Egerton had to say about possibly playing Wolverine. He says, "I made the mistake of saying that I had a general meeting at Marvel Studios around 4 years ago, which is true, but it got kind of spun and twisted into this thing. So I'm now at a point where, because look, I've always said, I don't know if I'm the right guy to play that part. I was with Hugh Jackman yesterday, briefly, who obviously played the role originally. We're such different vibes. I don't know if I would be the right person to follow him, but I've always said I would be open to it. But at the moment, there's no truth other than the fan casting thing, which goes kind of crazy every time I mention it, but you know, who knows?" However, he does go on to say that he would love to be in the MCU. Listen to this. He says, "So the reality is that there's been a lot of fan casting for it, and I took a general meeting with Marvel Studios' president, Kevin Feige, about 4 years ago where I said it would be, I love the movies. I would love to do something, and he said it would be great if we could find something." And Taron Egerton says, "I walked away and haven't spoken to him since. I check my emails every 5 minutes, but there was never, in fact, there was a character that I mentioned in that meeting, but it wasn't that one. So that puts it into some perspective. So there's no truth, no reality to it, but you know, I'd love to be a part. I'm a fan of those movies." Now, the character that he mentioned in that meeting was, of course, Cyclops, which he turned down because he didn't want his eyes to be covered the whole time. And there is still a chance that he could play Wolverine. Because yes, Hugh Jackman was iconic, and yes, they are a little bit different than each other, but you can't simply look to replace Hugh Jackman. Meaning you can't get somebody to try and be the exact same Wolverine. It just won't work because everybody will always compare him to Hugh Jackman. The Wolverine that we get has to be different. And if that's what Marvel Studios decides they want to go with, it could be Taron. And who knows if he's actually telling the truth here. Of course, he's not going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, totally. I talked to Kevin Feige. I'm going to be Wolverine. It's going to be fantastic. The movie's coming in late 2025. I wish he could say that, but there's absolutely no way. So he could have already actually signed with Marvel Studios to play some X-Men, maybe even Wolverine. We won't know until the official cast is announced. Now, like I said, if these contractual obligations are true and Marvel can't make a movie until 2025, it doesn't mean that they can't start working on the cast, working on the script, working on the movie in general. In fact, Marvel's Phase 6 slate has 5 movie slots or Disney Plus slots that don't have a title to them yet. One of these could indeed be the X-Men. And the rest of Phase 5 is already filled anyways, so even if it can't come out until 2025, it's really not that much longer than we would have had to wait, because it would have been late 2024 at the earliest. So if you've heard this report, don't worry, that doesn't really affect the X-Men that much. It only might mean the X-Men might actually come after Secret Wars, and they would start off our new saga. It could be the Mutant Saga. We'll have to wait and see, but maybe we'll see Taron Egerton playing an X-Men, possibly even Wolverine. Let me know what you think about this. Would you like him to play Wolverine, or do you see him playing somebody else? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news. For live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.